Hello again on the Filter 4. Brought our top 4 of the day, including, you don't want our kids? You don't have to adopt them. But we'll start with this. For many in Southern California, there's nothing quite like a day at Dodger Stadium. Millions filed through the turnstiles every year to watch the boys of summer and kick back with a Dodger dog and a cold one. But does everyone feel safe at Dodger Stadium? Seems there are always fights in the stands, sometimes worse in the parking lots. Usually fans don't have to be scared of security guards. But on Tuesday, one fan reportedly refused to leave the game. And that's when security took matters into their own hands.
Leave him alone, man. What's wrong with you? Hey! Oh, hey! I got the your way. Oh, no, come on. That's wrong.
You can clearly see security guards go after a fan that apparently was refusing to leave the stadium. The Dodgers say they're aware of the incident, and they're investigating. Our contributors tonight, Doctor of Social Ethics Charlotte Laws and the editor of LAMetBlogs.com, Ruth Waytz. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Ruth, I'm going to start with you. Bottom line here. Whether it's fights in the stands, brawls in the parking lots, or trouble with security, do you feel safe going to Dodger Stadium?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I was just invited to go to Dodger Stadium tomorrow night, and I would love to go. I feel safe there, just as safe there as I feel anywhere. And the situation at Dodger Stadium, I watched that video. I really don't know what happened. I didn't see what led up to it, but the guy was being a jerk. I mean, alcohol plus testosterone equals trouble. You know, I'm not saying don't serve alcohol at a ballpark or any of these things, but, you know, people need to be responsible for their own actions. I don't think that anything the security guards did on that tape that I saw, which is a lot of qualifiers, I don't think anything was really wrong. They were doing their job.
And here's the thing. Let me say this real quick. I mean, we saw the tape, and we saw them push the guy through the gate, and we saw the security guard kick him. What we don't know, and to be very honest here, is what led up to that.
That's
really
exactly
what was
I
being
meant.
said. And we don't know if the security guard used excessive force in removing that fan. What do you think, Charlotte?
Well, I think it's indeed possible that this was a publicity stunt, and it's kind of convenient that there happened to be a camera there capturing all of this. It's possible that this individual was looking for
Charlotte,
Charlotte. Yes?
Charlotte, how in the world could that be a publicity stunt?
Well, it could be, because you could provoke,
Are you kidding
you
me? Get on
provoke the
YouTube.
security, and then you end up with a situation on your hands. So it's very possible that they could have been looking to provoke. But, you know, I've been there once in my life about a decade ago. I felt safe, but I have looked at blogs and I've talked to people, and Ruth is right. It's like a raging river of testosterone, and people go there to fight. And so I think that we really need to have uniformed officers, and we really need to try to keep it calm there. I think it's good PR for LA if we have it calm and civil, but violence by fans goes way back to Roman times. And if you look at the 1970s and 1980s in Britain with the football hooligans, that was really out of control. So it's pretty common at many places at sporting events for the fans to get kind of crazy and start fighting and vandalism and all sorts of problems.
See, I can't speak to the specifics of this particular incident, but I know this, and I've said it on the radio many times when I did sports talk radio. You get a bunch of people in the stadium, they start drinking, they get drunk, they become knuckleheads. It's really that simple. Okay.
Instant a-hole, just add alcohol. One last thing I'd like to say about Dodger Stadium, though, is I understand that they do have these family zones that are sort of individually, it's kind of individual self-policing, but they're family zones where you can go and you can bring your kids, and there's no swearing, and it's safe. And believe me, I feel as safe at Dodger Stadium as I feel anywhere else.
All right, let's find out if you feel safe here. The right to free speech is a huge part of what makes this country great, but sometimes there's a fine line between free speech and hate speech. Depending on which side of that fence you stand on, there will certainly be a speech Saturday on the steps of City Hall. Members of the National Socialist Movement, a.k.a. white supremacists, were given a permit to hold a demonstration this weekend in Los Angeles. Why? Turns out they're holding a rally to remember their birthday, the birthday of their leader, Adolf Hitler. The city granted them a permit last month, but now several community groups are calling on the mayor to revoke the permit. The city granted them a permit, but the question is, should it be revoked at this time? Do they need to be standing on the steps of City Hall and preaching hate, or is it free speech, Charlotte?
I think it's free speech, and the courts uphold, in cases very similar to this, throughout the ages, they've upholded free speech. And you look at Skokie, which is a suburb of Chicago, for example, when the neo-Nazis wanted to march, and the ACLU took up the cause. In fact, the head of the ACLU was a Jewish man, and they won the case, and it was really particularly sensitive there because 1 out of every 6 of the Jewish people in that community had actually been there during the Holocaust. And it was a Pyrrhic victory, however, for the ACLU because they lost about 30,000 supporters. In a more recent case, we had a couple of kids in New Jersey who took had Hitler Youth buttons that they wore to school, and the school wanted to suspend them. The parents sued the school and won. So free speech is basically sacred in this country, and there are only a few exceptions to free speech. And I think these people got a permit, and those who want to oppose what they want to say, you know, oppose their words, can simply get a permit themselves and stand out there at City Hall as well.
Now,
so I think that's what you have to do.
All right, you mentioned,
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, but let me say this. You mentioned a couple of kids in New Jersey wore swastika buttons to school. But there were a couple of cases last week in New Jersey where 2 kids grabbed a microphone, one inside a Walmart and I think another inside a Whole Foods, and basically said, all blacks leave the store. The second time that happened, one of these kids was arrested, cited, and they're considering filing charges because they're going to be charged with inciting, the possibility of inciting violence. Well, if in New Jersey they're thinking of citing this kid or charging them, why would this be okay here? Ruth?
I just don't think that's
This is utterly ridiculous. This is utterly ridiculous. First of all, I'm a Jew. My grandma lived in Skokie when all that happened, and I absolutely lobby for their right to march and sing and dance and hop on one foot and whatever it is they need to do. I love the white supremacists because they themselves are the biggest argument against their movement. They're all a bunch of ding-dongs, and nothing is more hilarious than watching them spout their rhetoric crap. I say bring it on and shine a light on them, and a harsh light to show the world what kind of bugs and maggots they really are. Because who can do a better job than they do? No one.
Well, I'll say this. You know, you admitted you're Jewish. I'm not sure all Jewish people would agree with you in allowing them to have that platform, although they are protected under free speech.
Well, you know, I'm a Jewish convert, Fred. I converted to Judaism about 20 years ago, so I'm agreeing with Ruth.
All right, then you know what? Around the high holy days, we'll all get together and break matzah. Let's move on.